Welcome to the Disc Golf Prescription Podcast, your weekly dose of disc golf. Hello and welcome to the Disc Golf Prescription Podcast. I'm your host, John Nicholson, and it is a new year. We are in 2023. And I couldn't think of a better guest to have on the show than the always high energy Eric Oakley.
What's good, dude?
I'm doing good, man. How are you doing today?
Things are awesome. You know, getting into the new year, we had one spell of cold right around Christmas, but then it's been beautiful. So I've been able to train and work on my fitness and just be outside, which is super nice. I know that that's not a luxury everyone else has. So things are feeling super good, and yeah, excited about this and talking disc golf.
I appreciate you coming on, man. So cold spell in Florida. How cold did it actually get there?
It was like 40s and 30s during the day, and then into the 20s, which kind of ruined Tina's garden. But we saved quite a bit. We had an avocado tree in our living room for about a week, just as a decorative thing. But yeah, it was wild because it's the coldest it's ever been for that stretch. Like, we've had days where it's like 40 and 20s at night, but then it like that lasts only one day, but it was like consecutive days, which was kind of wild. So, you know, I definitely had some forced days off because I was like, why would I go play? Like, why would I go force myself into doing this? Like, it's not worth it. So took some days off and just focused on just like fitness instead.
I get that. Yeah, I think it was the Thursday before Christmas. We were in Kansas, Steph and I were, and it was like -9 or something. Yeah. She was like, "You gonna go practice?" I was like, "No."
Why? No, there's no reason.
Absolutely not.
I'm a fair weather golfer, man. Like, I really am. Like, too much wind, a little bit of rain, and I'm just like, I just turn into an Eeyore so fast.
I understand that. Now that I have the choice on how much practice I have to do, I'm just like, yeah, it's sunny outside and 60. I'm down.
Yeah,
if it's
for sure.
Raining at all? Nope. I'm out.
Pass.
Well, awesome. Before we really get started with this, thank you to you guys for watching. If you are watching on YouTube, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all the things you can do there on YouTube. If you're listening on a podcast app, we would really appreciate a 5-star review. It really helps the channel and how discoverable it is. But we just really appreciate you guys listening and being here. With all that said, let's get started. So I'm excited for some of this because it's like you never actually interview your friends. No. So like there's certain things like I have an idea of, but I don't actually know.
Sure.
Like, I know you used to play a lot of soccer, but besides soccer, like, did you ever play any other sports when you were a kid?
Yeah, I was field goal kicker and punter in football in like middle school and high school. Almost went down that path for college and stuff like that, but I just love soccer way too much. And it was something I could have seen myself doing. And, you know, financially might have made more sense if I would have been able to get all the way to the NFL, but you know, here we are. I'm a professional in a different sport. I also played ice hockey. I was a goalie in ice hockey, and I always had this like love for hockey from a very young age. I was just like, hockey's so sick, but I lived in Texas, so hockey wasn't necessarily that prominent. Obviously, we have the Dallas Stars, but I really enjoyed those sports, but soccer was the main one. And then once disc golf kind of got introduced when I was in, I was like freshman or sophomore in high school is whenever I was like, yep, I love this game, and just added it as like a kind of a mainstay of something that I did often. And, I'm glad I did because I ended up here.
No, yeah, of course. Like retrospectively, you're like, this is sweet.
It was the best decision I made.
So you had some hockey. By the way, I lived in Texas. I still live in Texas. I'm in Texas currently. But when I was young, all the kids who hung out in my neighborhood, we had we would play roller hockey religiously. So I don't know if that was just like a thing when we grew up or like what that was. But
all
I
it
was
took
part
was
of that
like
too.
one person being interested in having some of the equipment for you to just be like to get hooked on it. It's like so similar to disc golf, like the moment you start actually playing hockey, you're like this is actually super sick. It's again translates perfectly to disc golf of like somebody gave me a couple discs, I threw one straight and that's it. Like the rest is history, you know?
I think that's why it took me so long to get into disc golf, because I started off with a groove, and all it
Nice.
did was go left. And
Yeah.
so I either threw an ultimate disc or a groove. And I was like, you know what, this sport sucks.
Those are so wildly different discs. Oh my gosh. That's wild.
All right, so hockey kind of you said field goal kicking or a kicker in football and
Yeah.
soccer. Was soccer the only one you continued to a higher level?
Yes. I was able to take that, played 1 year in college, but then had opportunities to trial for some semi-pro and pro teams shortly after that. So I decided to do that. I also had some family stuff, so it kind of made sense for me to be closer to home while I was doing that transition to help out. And, I had a couple stints and a couple trials with some pro teams, and I was always very close. I was able to play semi-pro indoor and outdoor, be part of the pro practice squad of the Dallas Sidekicks for a little bit, and I was always very close, and I had people looking out, and I was actually very good at futsal. So I was also thinking about trying to see what that looked like, but it's just futsal wasn't big enough. So it was like I'd have to try and go overseas, but nobody was going to sign an American player to futsal in another country. It's just not going to happen. So a lot of that was like I was aspiring and really trying, but it kind of always just never. I just was never able to cross the line to get that contract or get to that next step. But the fact that I had opportunities to play with amazing people and see their level of professionalism. Like I trained with my buddy Stephen McCarthy, who was a player for the New England Revolution. He went off to college, played for the University of North Carolina, and he was fantastic. But I was able to train with him, and I got to kind of feed off of the things he was doing since he was training with an MLS team and take that to my own experiences as of learning how I needed to approach the game. And I would say I credit a lot to where I'm at now because of that, because I learned, I grew a lot as like understanding my health and responsibilities as an athlete more in those moments. So it definitely translated to helping me in the disc golf world.
That's a perfect segue. I was actually going to ask, like, were there any specific aspects of that experience in another sport that directly transferred over to disc golf?
Yep. I'd say the training aspect of how often you need to be on, of you need to be able to switch your brain from, this is training to game, and also understanding when the days that you're feeling tired, you still can get something out of the day that'll benefit you when push comes to shove and you're now competing so that was huge. And being that it's a team sport, it's kind of crazy because you could have your best game and you could lose 5-0. But in disc golf, you have your best game and you're competing for a win. Like that's just how it is. And so it's so different. But yeah, I think that most of it came from the training aspect of how I needed to approach certain things, of staying fit. And I have lost sight of that until recently. And it's something that I'm hitting really hard right now because I don't know, you get complacent. I'm throwing the disc fine. I'm putting decent. And then it's like, well, am I doing enough? Am I fit enough? Am I X enough? Am Y, Z, like so on and so forth. So I'm definitely trying to look at it as I need to be better. I'm in my 30s. If I really want to compete with some of the younger players, I gotta work a little bit harder. And also, I would love to be in the same vein of seeing what Nate Sexton does, even though he's only a couple of years older than me, but seeing the same things of what Johnny McRae was able to do and still is able to do, Patrick Brown, Barry Schultz, Dave Feldberg, like be one of those guys that still can show up at a pro tour event at an older age and still be relevant and
absolutely
and have it. Michael Johansson is another prime example. Philo Brathwaite. Like, I mean, the list goes on. So I would love to be that next generation of player that is one of those guys that's talked about in a similar capacity.
Oh, awesome. I actually have a fan question that you may have seen earlier today. Yeah. I didn't even tag you in it, so I was hoping you wouldn't see it. But
I'm on social media way too much, so I see everything. Not as much as Jordan Castro, but
That's a fact. I don't think I've ever posted a single thing that Jordan Castro hasn't liked.
It's amazing. He's incredible. He's got to have a bot where somebody's like perma-liking stuff for him. I don't know. He's just that good.
Oh, that's awesome. So you said disc golf started like mid to late high school. Mm-hmm. How exactly did you start playing disc golf?
A soccer friend of mine, his name was Ian Keeble, just said, "Hey, man, do you want to play disc golf?" And I was like, "We got a course right in Grapevine, Texas, Bear Creek." And it was really close to his house.
Rip.
I know. Sad dog parks, But, so we went, and he had discs and got me hooked, and he was, he's like, "All right, dude." And we went back to his place, and he had downloaded USDGC videos, and I got to see it at a professional level very early on. So I knew what was capable outside of what I was able to do and what Steve Brinster, Ken Climo, and those guys were doing with a disc. It was like, oh, so that's what's possible. What I'm doing is like so in its adolescence and so basic, and so I needed to really, like, if I wanted to like enjoy the game, I had to get better. So I got some of my friends that were closer to me, and actually at Grapevine High School there was, before us, a disc golf club that got baskets, but they weren't around when I was there. But so they had just baskets in our practice field for soccer. So I was like, cool. So me and my buddies just would go and rip in the field, go to Bear Creek, swim in the ponds, grab more discs, and then throw, and then go to play it again and buy more discs, and then so on and so forth. And I was able to travel around with Ian to play like Vets and the Carrollton courses, the Louisville courses, and that kind of helped me understand more. I think that was really good for me, that I didn't just play Bear Creek, because Bear Creek is, when it was in its shorts position, it was like so easy. But when you went to these other courses and like playing some of these longer holes and different things like that, it really opened your mind up of how you had to practice. So I would always take that to the field and throw. So yeah, it was pretty cool. Pretty cool to like have all that be the start. And I'm so happy I learned then. And I learned the Brinster hop then because of watching him in videos at USDGC. And I just like tried it one day, and then I threw like 5 really good shots doing it, and I was like, well, this is it. And then
this is how I throw now.
But we didn't have YouTube back then. Like, we didn't have something to like constantly look at a bunch of people all the time and see how they're doing it and understand that this is an anomaly. He's different. And it's like, no, I was like, I guess that's the way because it works for me. So I'm happy it did, because it's so often that people see me throw from afar and they're like, oh, that's Eric. They know it immediately. Like, it doesn't matter. They just know that is who's throwing the disc. So that's kind of a cool concept.
I could be a mile away and just see like a blurry speck, and that's Eric. It's Eric for sure.
It's true. You can also hear me, so there's that too.
also fair. So when you first started, what were your strengths and weaknesses, would you say? And then like how have those kind of progressed over time to like now?
Mm-hmm. I learned how to throw decently far pretty quick. So I was able to, I remember at Bear Creek, there was a field that we'd always warm up in, and I was like reaching this tree. And now that tree is like 350 feet away. And I was like, but I was reaching it, and I was like, I am smashing the disc. And knowing that that's like, for a pro is like kind of nothing. And that was like kind of a cool thing. So that was like, that worked out. My forehand was actually garbage, but I had the traditional taking over stable Firebird, over the top, goes 200 feet, fades out, dumps, sits. I had that, So that was definitely, I would say, a weakness. Gap hitting, I was terrified of because everybody is at the start. I didn't know how to power down. Like if I could rip a putter or a mid range as hard as I possibly could, I was looking to do that because I felt more confident doing that than like, you know, like fan gripping or anything like that. That just like didn't work in my brain. So yeah, I'd say that was probably the one thing. And I wasn't that great of a putter either, but I was always constantly looking and trying and practicing to try and get better. But I don't know, those early days of putting were strange, really strange. Because like, I mean, I was using polecats, then I was using AVRs, JK AVRs. I was using a bunch of different discs just to find it, and then P2s happened, and I stayed with those for a long time.
I feel like when you first start, you're just like, oh no, it's the disc. I'm doing this right. Like it's fine.
Do you know me? I'm so cool. Like I'm so good. Like why would it ever be me? It's got to be the disc.
Oh goodness. And then it kind of stays that way for a while, and then finally you settle on something that feels good, and you're like, all right, maybe it's a little bit me.
A lot bit me.
Oh, that's awesome. And through that process, like when did you really start getting serious about disc golf and figure out like, man, like, can this be a career for me?
I would say that happened when I moved away from Texas. So I was working as a coach, things were great, and then I was in a relationship and decided to move with that person to Phoenix. And then we shortly after broke up. And I was at a point in my life where go back to Texas, try and get back into the same work, or I have family in Salt Lake City at that point. So I said, why don't I try something new? So I did. And got a job at a school, was working in an after school program and worked as a substitute, and was able to get into some coaching and doing some of my own personal like futsal stuff that helped, supplement my income. So I was able to do that. But what worked so well with that schedule was often I would start work at 2:00 in the afternoon. So I had my mornings where I would go play rounds of golf with my buddy Chris DeLesbo, who, was a student at the time. So his schedule was very similar to mine, and so we were able to, where are we playing? Cool, I'll see you there. And then we go grab lunch and then go off, and he'd go to school, go to class, and I'd go to work. So we did that so much, but it was so awesome to meet him, because what ended up happening is we were at a similar skill level when we met each other. So we were basically playing a competitive round of disc golf every day, even though if it wasn't like being documented on the PDGA or anything like that. But we knew every day, like, and we would throw multiple shots, but we knew on the day, like, I am not letting Chris beat me, and he felt the same. But we just bonded over that, and we elevated each other to being pretty good. And that's when I started to recognize that I was playing at a high level. And just before I had moved, I met up Tony Shirley, Dynamic Discs out of Texas. Great human
Love
being,
Tony.
and great disc golfer. When I was about to play my first tournament, I asked him, because I was fortunate enough to play a couple rounds with him. I asked him, I was like, what division should I play? And he said, I don't think you will learn anything from the amateur division. And so I signed up for pro, and my first tournaments in Texas and in Utah, I wasn't even close, but it's whatever. But I'm happy I did, because it meant it made me focus of, if I'm going to be a pro about this, I need to learn from the other pros that are already doing it, who are already at a level that's higher than me. And then also I need to be training like it. So I was going and doing field work. I was hitting the practice basket for hours. I was doing all those things, and I started doing a lot of that when I was in Utah. And it worked out that I came and traveled back to a tournament in Texas that was out at Gateway in Fort Worth. And Simon Lizotte happened to be in the same tournament. Scott Stokely was there as well.
Awesome.
I shot the hot round in the first round, and then did not shoot as well at North Park, but was able to impress Simon, because I kept a really good head. I was positive about it, and it was very, very cool. But that was like kind of when I was noticing it. It's like, I'm putting enough time into this that if the opportunity comes, I want to make this happen. And playing well in that moment, and impressing Simon and Jamie Thomas, who was traveling around with him at the time, was one of the best things I could have done. And I implore this to anyone who's out there: is you never know when the opportunity is going to be there, so you have to be open always to allow that opportunity to happen to you. If you're trying to force it, it's probably going to run away from you. But if you sit back and be ready and prepare yourself for any moment, that's when you have the best chance of being successful and maybe having really cool things happen to you. At least that's what happened to me. So I would hope that opportunity reigns true for others.
No, I think that's awesome. By the way, throwing out North Park, I'm pretty sure it was at North Park at least. I think they just had like a 418 person flex start the other day.
I saw that $5,000 or $6,000 ace pot was being had.
It was something
I saw the line.
Stupid. Yeah, I saw multiple videos of the line.
It's crazy, crazy. Love those guys. Ideal. What an amazing shop. Like they are people that Tina and I look to support since they've supported us before we were out doing it. So I'm a big fan of Jesse and his crew, Luke and everybody that's over there. So amazing, amazing people.
Yeah, that's awesome. Shout out to Dallas Disc Golf, man. Dude, that's a crazy thing to happen.
It's I don't know. It's weird because I have been, people think I'm from Utah. Some people find out I'm from Texas, but I don't. It's hard to claim either as home, but because I learned to be a disc golfer in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, so that's why I throw Scoobies, grenades, and overhands pretty decently, because you had to learn how to do that at a course like Vets and many of the other courses in the area. So I learned a lot there, but then I really blossomed into being a professional athlete and disc golfer in Utah. Is where I really got good. It was when I started honing those skills into something, and then so much else was I learned on tour. So it's like that. So like all of these places have been homes, and so to those two communities, the Dallas-Fort Worth community of many people there that I was able to play with and see and interact with, I am incredibly thankful. And the same thing goes to the Salt Lake City and Ogden, the Nudga crew and everything. The tunnel runners that are all out there were incredibly influential for me to make it. So I hope they understand that both of those communities will always have, like, I am forever thankful for those communities of what they were able to do for me, because I would not be here without them.
Judging by the way people that I've run into have talked about you, and at least this community, not as when we were there for Worlds, I ran into a little bit, like I met Chris and everybody. Yeah. But like I feel like those communities feel the same way about you. So that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. One more question before we shift gears a little bit. More of like an introspective question about your disc golf history or past, if you will.
Sure.
If you could go back in your disc golf career and like change something, and this could be anything, knowing everything you know now, what would you change?
I think I would focus on becoming the best putter I could. I think I was too focused on throwing far for too long, because I wanted to be a crush boy. Who doesn't? Who doesn't want to throw the disc? I agree. 500-foot hyzers, right? I still want to be a crush boy. I do too. I have to recognize that that's probably not in the cards for me. But if I could change it, I really wish I could have, Rick when he's on, or like how Eagle putts, or when Paul is in clutch mode. Those types of things. It's just like, think about these. But Andrew Marweed. Let's not shy away. Andrew Marweed style putting, where it's just that consistent. I would love for me to walk up to anything inside of 35, 40 feet and the basket looks huge. Because I know that there have been too many moments in my career where I'm walking up to a 25-footer and the basket, all I see is the pole, and I'm like, there's no way I even hit this, even though there's plenty of change to catch the disc, but I just like feel timid or whatever. So I think that that's a part that I would like to focus in. And I'm hitting that now, where I'm, pushing to make 100 putts a day, 100 plus putts a day is like kind of been my main goal. Anthony Bedanza kind of actually has the same concept of, Project 100, I think is what he calls it. But if you guys haven't checked out Bonanza Disc Golf, good people. But I'm in that mode of I just want to see myself make putts, and I'm noticing that translation to whenever I go and play more rounds, how consistent my putt feels because I'm not thinking about it as much because I'm in that mindset of making putts. Like because when you make 100 putts from 20 to 25 feet and a bunch, you're not missing many if you're feeling dialed. So the response that I'm getting from that is that I make putts. That's what I do.
Yeah,
and that's translating to me walking up to every putt and I'm like, yeah, make it. You're making this. Duh. Like this is all that happens. And the other part is the other side of the coin is being more instead of being critical, being analytical of when I do miss. What happened? Oh, I didn't get up. I didn't stay up. My chin was like lowered. I'm trying to be more understanding, not missing a putt and getting really mad. It's just like, okay, what happened? Oh, this is what happened. Cool. Focus on it on the next one. And that's been so huge with this practice as well. So that's the one thing I would change. I wish I would have spent more time on the green. I wish I would have, put more time into that putt because my putt is solid. And when it's on, it's really good. But I think there's been, especially lately, and I think this is easy to say that, is I had a couple seasons where I wasn't missing inside the circle. And the last 2 seasons, I have missed so much inside the circle and makeable putts. And I looked at it and I did a ballpark number of like, I probably lost over 100 strokes this year just to circle one putting. And that is way too high. And I had some good finishes, but I also had some really bad finishes. And it's like, you can't attribute all of that to throwing the disc. It's so much of it is putting the disc. So, and then again, I want to be good at putting, so I can make the change now. And maybe past Eric in a different life will be better at putting. We'll see.
Perfect. All right. So shifting gears a little bit, let's talk about like some travel and different modes of travel. Because you're a very interesting person when it comes to that. Yeah. And the reason I say that is because you seem to have like done it all. Like you've done the RV, you've done a car, you've done Airbnbs, you're doing the van, like you've flown to tournaments. I'm sure you've even taken trains to tournaments when you're over in Europe, probably.
Haven't yet. But
you've taken a ferry to a tournament. I know that because you got married there.
Yep, we did. And we've taken ferries in Europe too, which is super cool. So we've done I've done it all except train, but now I have to. Now I have to how can I get on a train? Let's do this.
I called you out, that's for sure. Yeah. But I say all that to ask, like, can you take me like through your evolution of how you've traveled to tournaments over the years and like what are you doing now? What are you planning on doing in the future? Like
Sure. Started out, I was obviously driving to my own tournaments when I was, in Dallas and in Utah, but then had the opportunity to travel in the Maniac for Discmania. And so I was in an RV for a lot of it, with Simon, with Eagle, was awesome. But then, when Discmania and I went our separate ways, I was, me and Tina were really close and she had an RV at the time. So then we were in her RV and I was really lucky that she took me in because she had a really great setup, and then I just decided to explode her with like way too many shoes, too many discs, and she's just like, "You got to do something, man! Like this is way too much." But she loves me, so I was very, very fortunate to have that kind of relationship. So we were doing that for a while, and then we got a different RV, and then we were fighting because she was doing whale sex while playing, and I wanted to go to the course all the time, and she's like, I have to set up my setup to so whale sex. And then I have to break it down anytime we want to leave. So it's like, this is getting really tedious. So it's like, okay, well, let's get a car that we can tow behind. And then we went a lot back and forth. And then we ended up doing it and we towed behind a fit. And that was easy for me to say, I'm going to go to the course, zoom in the fit and go there and do it. So that was something that worked out super well. And then shortly after that was Tina was like kind of more staying home, to work on the business, to work on herself, and it's been really positive for her. So at that point, I didn't want to travel in the RV because I didn't want to take the RV with the fit solo because it can be a nightmare. of
It can be.
doing one person doing the role. And I mean, you've had moments of this where it's just chaos. So I was like, I don't want to do that. So I got a car, an SUV, and drove around in that until early last year when I hit a deer on my way to the preserve. Big thanks to Madison and Calvin for helping me in that situation. There was a lot of people who supported us, a bunch of people in South Dakota. All those people. Alex was the main guy who was actually had the Rogue all smashed up at his house, but he has a course and they put a marksman basket on top of it, so it lived a good life until it finally got sold off for parts. So that was unique, and I picked up a minivan in Minnesota for whatever I could get one for, and used that to get home. And just yesterday, bought a Nissan like storage van similar to what Ricky has, as a joining the van life. I think I'm not going to be staying in it. I think the van life for me is going to be more similar to what Ricky has it as storage, and to increase vending setup, being able to run events need be. That's the goal for this year. So back to some of the roots of whenever we were driving the RV and we had a bunch of extra storage and we could set up and vend and do all that stuff. We're going to try and bring some of that back to what I'm doing now, because I think that there is something that is being missed at the moment from a lot of players, and it's the capitalizing on the hustle. And I don't know how long the hustle is going to be there. If, say, we get a big major sponsor that comes in and blows disc golf out of the water, then maybe we're at that point where you don't need to do that. But at the current status of things, you got to hustle. If you want to make it work, you got to move product. You got to stay relevant. You got to be interacting with the fans. And this is a easy opportunity for myself and the people I'm going to be working with. People come to mind, James Proctor, Maria Leva, Erica Stinchcomb are going to be people you're going to see me often hanging around with and vending with. So there'll be a lot of really great opportunities to support the brands that are supporting us with that. So pretty cool opportunity. And it's a lot of work. I'm investing in myself here because it was a financial investment, but I think it can pay off. And so if you're listening, check us out. We'll be vending at most Pro Tour events, and we'll be hanging out, and we'll have sick product. And if you want to just come say hi, please do. We're human beings, and we love having conversations. So it's going to be worth.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The hustle out there is real, and
Yeah.
it does surprise me the amount of players who don't put any effort towards it at all when it could pay off.
Not everybody
so
can
much.
be Calvin Heimberg. Sorry, I love Calvin. He's one of my favorite people, but not everybody is going to have that luxury. Like even Ricky and Paul and Eagle and Simon, they hustle in their own regards. Like they're doing things and Chris Dickerson comes to my mind in a similar capacity of those are people who have done well and have been, shown their personality through different media companies and shown how cool they are, because they are two of the most amazing human beings, but they don't have the strongest social media presences because their play that makes it to where they don't have to. So it's not everybody can do that. And I implore anybody who's coming up that don't try and be that. Be something else, and then when things fall into place where you can hustle less because you're taken care of, cool, then you can wean off of that. But with that being said, look at players who are well off and are still hustling. Brody Smith is a prime example. I think, and I can't speak to his actual worth, its net worth, but his following plus the things he's done in the past, plus Kelsey is her name?
Yep.
What they've been able to do as a couple and the things that they do as human beings is and entrepreneurs and things like that, I would imagine that they are doing just fine, but that doesn't stop them from continuing to hustle. Brody is putting out videos every single week. He's doing so much. And Ezra is the same way. It's like people who are doing well in the sport, they're still hustling. And because they understand the simple fact that you can take some weeks off and chill and not have to hustle that hard because your discs are going to sell anyways, But that investment into giving the people stuff to consume means that they're probably going to sell more product. They're going to benefit a lot more than just that one video they put out that's going to make future fans and create more opportunities for them. It is insanely smart, and I think more people need to try and follow that path than follow I'm a player and I'm a player only path, because where we're at right now, it's like probably not going to make it if you do just that. You need to do the other stuff.
Very true. Yeah, and the one thing I think people constantly get wrong about Brody, since you used him as an example, is they think he's been given a lot of things because he came into the sport with a lot of fame, which he probably does get more opportunities because of that. But what they underestimate is like the dude's work ethic is insane. He would
never have gotten to the place he was to gain said fame that he was able to now transfer into to all this without a solid work ethic and foundation first. And then he just was like, okay, keep that, put this here.
Foundation. Sorry.
Yeah, nice. But yeah, Brody is polarizing in some ways, and I've had my moments where I'm like, dang, Brody, stop doing what you're doing, because you're making me mad. But then at the same time, I'm like thinking about it. I'm like, I respect the hell out of that dude, and I know that any opportunity to work with him or do anything that is even similar he's paving the way. He's making a clear path for a lot of us to make it. And I think Paul is in the same vein. Ricky's in the same vein. All those players are showing what can happen if you take quality play, good social media presence, and a strong work ethic. Man, the hustle is exponentially good.
Yeah, 100%. So we went off on a wee bit of a tangent there.
Sorry.
It's all good. I love it.
The hype is real.
Going back to your travel vehicles really quickly, I'm just very curious. What was your most enjoyable travel situation? And then which one are you like, I'm happy to be done with that?
I think it was kind of a unique situation whenever Clemens jumped in with me in the Rogue 2 years ago. It was one of the more enjoyable times I had on the road, because we had been friends, but we got really close traveling together, and I think we traveled well together. We understood, the ebbs and flows of each other, and was able to work similar to the same capacity when I traveled with Eagle in the Maniac early on. That was one of the best moments I've had traveling, because it just worked. It super worked. In a similar vein of early on with Tina, whenever we were both trying to practice and do stuff, it got really good. It was so easy. So all of those kind of function in the positive ones, I think, definitely stand out. But then the hardest one, I think, was probably towing the car behind. We hit a raccoon, and the guts ended up all on the fit, and I had to get out in the middle of the night when it was like, I don't know, it was like 30-mile-an-hour winds, and I have gloves on, and I'm pulling gross raccoon off of the grill of the fit. It was just such a bad moment. Also, killing an animal is something you never really are stoked about doing. Or at least I'm not. So that sucked. And then the first time we actually towed the car behind, we hit a pothole on our way down from Vegas to Phoenix and didn't know it. Blew the tire and just ruined a rim and had no idea. And we got to a gas station plenty later and had just been riding on the rim. But because it was our first time driving it, we didn't know if it felt different. Yeah. How would you know? So, and then we had something with the brakes. It's just there was so many things. But once we got it good, it was actually it was super fun. So I'm happy to be done with the RV life. I think it is a lot of extra work and stress that I'm happy to not have, and that's why I went with the SUV and a minivan as that's super easy to travel in, and now going into this kind of more cargo van, but it fits in any parking spot. It kind of goes through some drive-throughs, but not all. But it's whatever, it's fine. I know that I'm not ever going to have to be like pulling into something and be like, oh gosh, I just messed up. I have to detach the car, turn around, come back around, attach the car to leave. Like, I'm never going to be in those situations where I feel stuck anymore. So really looking forward to this as similar to a car, but also upping the amount that we can do vending and just vending wise. So it should be good.
Yeah, that'll be really good. Yeah, I think a lot of people underestimate, including myself, how difficult the RV life can be at points. The work never stops.
Dude, it has so many benefits of feeling comfortable. Your home is with you always, and you just are able to just chill when you need to. But there's the moments in between that can be pure chaos, and those that they can weigh on you. And sometimes you'll go 2 months without any weird moment. Everything kind of moves smoothly, but then you can go 3 weeks where it's just you're just battling each and every place you go. So yeah, it's crazy.
Our Steph and I's RV is currently in the shop right now, so we're in one of those battling moments. That's for sure.
And minimum any RV fix is like, if it is anything less than $700, it's a steal. Like it's like bank on it being probably more like $1,000 every time you do something. Like, and it's just like, so your pocket just gets liquidated super fast.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
All right. So this next segment is actually it's the fan favorite segment. I normally have a sound. I hit a button and some chimes play, but I don't have my setup going on right now, so I'm sorry about that. But it's called Steph's Curious Questions.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, so this is where I tell Steph who's coming on the show. She thinks about 3 things she wants to ask you. She might stalk your social media, whatever, and she gives me 3 questions. I write them down and I ask you.
Steph's awesome. You guys are awesome.
She is. I appreciate that. You guys are awesome.
Oh.
And so, question number 1. Why did you start running every day? And how long has it been now?
The reason I started running, I saw just pictures and videos of myself, and I looked like the Pillsbury Doughboy. And I was like, okay, what's something that I can commit to every day? Simple, easy, I can increase it, and I can, have a minimum that I like to do. I can do that. What can I do? And I was like, okay, working out's kind of tough because, I don't always have the right surface, but it's like, I can run anywhere. I've ran in cities. I've ran in, on trails. I've ran everywhere. I've found cool paths and seen cool things while I've been on my run. So that was like, all right, I'm going to run every day. And I said, I'm going to commit to minimum of 10 minutes because I can give myself 10 minutes every single day. I know I can commit to that. There's never a day where I don't have 10 minutes to spare. And that was so simple. That's the minimum. And then now I'm, when in the off season, it's really easy to say, it's like, cool, I'm going to go on this 25, 30-minute run and pace myself and try and push a little bit and things like that. And sometimes if I'm, I shifted up a lot. And let me actually take a look where I'm at. The best part about archiving your stories on Instagram is that I can track what day I'm on, or else I would never remember. So,
I was wondering how you remembered.
Yeah. The first was 613. So I'm like 615 days. Today will be 616, I think is the number.
Wow.
So yes, coming up on 2 years here soon. So pretty cool. And it's pretty cool that a buddy of mine named Eric back in Dallas actually he recently hit 1,000 days in a row of running. So, and I think he does like super runs. Like he runs like for like an hour a day, but I'm like, yeah, but he's not a disc golfer. He's just, family man and crushing life and doing really cool things. So that's like a part of his routine. So yeah, one was trying to be a little bit more active and think about my longevity. I know that running alone isn't going to help me lose weight. I knew that, but creating habits and creating and just asking more of my physical condition will definitely help me be healthier. And that was, I think, the whole goal of the running.
No, that is awesome. I mean, when you first started doing it, or I think when I first started really noticing was Delaware of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's correct, at least.
Yeah.
And I was just like, where's he going? And like I had seen your stories and everything, and I was like, I wonder how long he's going to do this. And then like the other day, I saw 600 or something,
Still
and
doing it.
I was like, well, still going.
Yeah, I mean, I've had some weird travel days, like the Europe travel days were hard to plan it. It's like, and if I have to, like, I'll get into a hotel really late and check into my room, drop my stuff off, take my hat, take my glasses off, and go run for 10 minutes and just do laps around the hotel if I have to, or go to the treadmill in the fitness center if they happen to have one. Like I make sure to get it in. And like I said, 10 minutes is easy. Even if it's on days that I'm super tired, I can just go 10-minute jog. I've been sick and gone on these runs, and but I know that it's something that I'm committing to as like hey, on those days you go really light, because you need to let your body recover. But getting oxygen in and out is good, as long as I'm not, making it to where I'm having to recover. Like I'm just able to move things around is good. So yeah. It's been worth it.
You are absolutely murdering these segues today.
Yeah.
Because the next question is, everyone seems to be sick right now. At least people that we've been around.
Yeah.
What is your go-to meal when you don't feel good, and why?
Being from Texas, like Whataburger is like a food group that just every Texan has. But Whataburger is like always something that I know will make me feel good. I get a double and a single and a large fry, and I feast. But it is definitely something I'm having to kind of put to the side if I'm trying to be healthy. So that's always something. But if I'm out on the road, I tend to like, I don't know, go for some wings or something like that. Always like foods that, or any like, Olive Garden. Duh. Olive Garden's always going to make you feel better. So that's always like up there. But I'm hitting fasting hard and being more conscious of what I'm eating. So I've definitely been a lot better about my food choices lately. So this is nice. So I'm definitely just trying to remember and just like, hey, I can't be a slob all the time as much as I would like to, but so
yeah, that's definitely fair. That Wings to Go in Jonesboro is always a good
incredible
place to stop.
When I heard that Jonesboro might not be on the tour, and then I saw it back on, I know Austin Hanem was like cheering. He's like, "Yeah, Wings to Go, baby!" And so, yeah, that is a top pick for sure. One of those on the roads of like comfort foods for sure.
That's awesome. Also, if any of you guys are interested in more disc golf pros talking about Whataburger, make sure to go check out my Bradley Williams episode where he gives some funny Whataburger information that I'm not going to put out there. You have to go check out the episode to see it.
Nice.
All right. And the last question of Steph's Curious Questions. If you could pick one person in the world, specified that it has to be a person who's living, to have a 10-minute conversation with, who would it be, and what would you ask?
My first, the two people that come to mind it's either Paul Rudd or Bill Murray, as two human beings that I feel like have lived pretty insane lives, and they're celebrities, so it's like I'd love to kind of dive in to them more, and obviously seeing like Paul Rudd's Hot Ones and seeing how he acts as a human being leads me more of what he does. But I'd probably ask like Paul Rudd of how he's felt about not really having a social media, and because he's in that realm where he's so big that he doesn't need it. People know who Paul Rudd is, and people
isn't he like currently the sexiest man alive or something?
I think so. I mean, I think so. I mean, he's amazing, and he just, the way he acts and the way he talks and feels about the world seems like he's got his head on straight and he's not wrapped up in so much. And like, I would love to know more about that perspective. If it's like the not being so much involved with social media, is it his embrace of just the simple things that are in his life, like his family and the day to day, and not, being too focused on everything else. So I would just love to get more insight onto how he became who he is, because he's very humble. He seems very approachable, and he might not be. Like, we don't know who these people are. That's like their lives can be so tricky. So yeah, I think that's where I'd go with it. I know that there are a lot of probably more interesting people I'd also like to talk to and meet and things like that, but I have to go with that instinct, and I definitely go with Paul Rudd.
No, that's a great pick.
Yeah.
All right. For those of you who've heard it before, I am now hitting the imaginary chime that ends Steph's curious question.
Ding, ding, ding.
Perfect. That's fantastic. All right. So the next thing we're kind of getting into, I'm just so curious about people's routines.
Sure.
And I like to ask people about their routines and what they are.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any like set routines you consider important for your disc golf game or like your life in general?
Yeah. I mean, I've gone through ebbs and flows. Like one of the main like things it's like I always have kombucha the day before a tournament round. Like and then I'll like, all right, cool. This is a 4-round tournament. Cool. 4 kombuchas. Make sure they're in the fridge, and I drink one at night, one afternoon, night, the day before the tournament, and then that's stayed a habitual routine that I've kind of kept going. And when tournaments are going well, I try and keep to the same routines just to try and make it seem the same. But that changes at every event because it changes where I'm staying. It changes what food options are available for those breakfast meals and stuff like that, or just early lunches if you're playing well. I'm in a good habit of routine of running every day. That's something that I think has been super, super helpful, but when I run is always like different. I definitely have days where I'm like running at a similar time, but I'm definitely trying to just let it happen. Know that it's like something I have to get done, but when it gets done, it doesn't matter. I don't like to run before tournament rounds because I want the energy for the tournament round. So I'll go on a short run after a round. I definitely have found routines on like in my shots, like as far as like things that I didn't notice that I do. Like I've had people ask me like why are you bending when you're throwing a side? Like why are you doing that? I'm like, I don't know. Like my brain is weird. Like it makes me. It helps me get set, and I also have gotten into like I do that on backhands too. Like I'll tune discs and things like that. Putting wise, I've had something that I built up from actually my dad talking to me about I played basketball in middle school, but he's like, here's how I do my free throws, and I adopted the same thing. It's like dribble the ball 3 times, set, shoot. So I'd count 1, 2, 3. Set is 4, shoot is 5. So I would do the same thing to my putting, and I don't do it as much anymore. But if my putt gets off, I always go back to counting to 5. So like those are simple things that I could do mid-round of like count to 5, get your timing back, and then you can go back to not thinking about the counting. So different things like that have been part of what I've done. It's pretty cool.
Oh, that's great. That's a lot of info. I like that.
Yeah.
Do you have any sort of like set practice routines, like whether you're at a tournament or not?
No. I think the one thing that I took from the end of this past year is that I'm no longer looking at, because I can get UDisc can send me a notification of when I'm playing. So I'm not looking at what place I'm in, what my round rating was, or anything like that. That's something that I'm going to carry into this next season because I've outplayed my rating. I've played lower than my rating at so many different tournaments, and that every time I was thinking about it, I think it was a distraction more than it was anything else, or thinking about where I'll place. I will look at UDisc if it becomes important to understand where I'm at. Most of it is just I would rather finish the tournament and know that what I did and made decisions because I'm playing smart and playing good is going to carry me through. So that's something that I'm definitely going to be looking to just kind of keep going as a whole concept, because it made me feel better about the game. Rating system is a whole, we could have another hour long discussion. It's just it's a very weird thing that, to see. I think the PDJ posted just one small bit of it is we saw that 1,100 rated rounds were shot at a bunch of tournaments that aren't on the Pro Tour, and it's like, this is not to take away from anything that those players did, because they probably went out and absolutely tore up the course and played some of the best golf of their life. But to see somebody do it on tour like Joel Freeman did at the course in Pennsylvania, I wasn't there, but watching the coverage and everything I've heard shows that there is something wrong with the system. The fact that Fountain Hills continues to rate as high as it does is there's something wrong with the system. And I know Chuck Kennedy has built a system that works for the most part, but this is a glaring flaw that we're seeing, that people aren't always getting the rating they deserve. And that is, and I hate that we even have to do that we have to talk about the rating that they deserve, when it would have been so much better to talk about Joel's round as could be the best round we saw all year, and potentially one of the best rounds of the decade, and so on and so forth. But because of its rating, it might not see the same conversation. And I think that definitely takes away from that whole concept, is sometimes ratings can just be in the way. But sometimes they can hype it up. It's like, oh, it's 1120 rated, and now we're all hyped about it, so in different ways. So yeah.
The big flaw, just to put one last statement or period on it, whatever, is that open courses that are lower par with lots and lots of OB will always score, as far as rating goes, way better than long courses with lots and lots of trees in your way and no OB. And
wild.
That is what the system does. And
stupid.
Actually, if you think we're wrong, comment down below and let us know why we're wrong. They're
both difficult, but throwing a disc through trees and navigating trees in a specific way, it takes a lot more. If landing zones can be way easier to hit as a high level professional, because you can spike highs or something, you've learned how to control the disc when it hits the ground better. Obviously there's things that are a little bit out of your control, but you can give it higher odds to sit. You can do that as a pro as you go and practice. But navigating flexing a shot through the woods and swinging back is that is way, way more difficult than spike hyzering a disc into a landing zone 1,000 times over.
I agree. Last routine question. Do you have a workout routine that you follow on tour, apart from running every day, obviously?
No. I occasionally do some disc golf strong exercises that Seth puts me through whenever I start to feel any ailments, but I've been pretty lazy in that department the last couple of years. So I'm hoping the things that I'm doing now are I'm doing basically foam rolling to start my workout, 2 sets of 4 to 5 exercises with some shoulder stability and breathing to finish. 20 minutes is what it takes, and I'm doing it mainly off of body weight. So it's something that I know I can do in a hotel room. I know I can do anywhere I'm going. I can do it just by putting it by making it easy. And I was talking with Seth because he's working on Disc Golf Strong, always evolving, and he's incredible at what he does. But I've said, this is where I feel comfortable because I'm able to do a workout every single day, and I've done a workout every single day for the past couple weeks and I've been able to get them in. Even if I've gone and played 2 rounds and ran and helped Tina and done all this, I still do it because I know I can do it in 20 minutes, and I know I'm helping my body, and I'm building my core strength, my hip stability, my shoulder stability. All of those things are happening with these workouts, and they're just so easily done. And I think that's where my brain is at. I'm hoping to carry this into maybe all of my practice days, continuing this, and then feeling out how I feel, and maybe even working in some recovery work for tournament days, so I can still say I'm working out every day. So it's now I'm giving myself 30 to 40 minutes a day of running plus working out. And I still think that everybody has 40 minutes to give themselves a day. I waste more time getting out of bed when I just sit there and scroll Facebook and stuff for 40 minutes. So it's why not you get up earlier and then spend 40 minutes doing the stuff that's going to make you better. So,
dude, I snooze my alarm for 40 minutes some days.
All days, every day. Oh, dude, oh man, it's so bad.
No, but that's awesome about the working out advice. I think a lot of people could use that because doing something small consistently is so much better than intermittent periods of doing a lot.
Totally.
And one day I will learn that lesson, but
Yeah,
for right now, that's okay.
100%.
Next thing I wanted to talk to you about is about social media.
Okay.
You're really active on social media. From what I've seen, you always have been. Were you like naturally inclined towards posting on social media? Was that something you always wanted to do, or was that something you've had to develop?
I was actually very against like Instagram, and I don't really post on. I'm not on Twitter. I have a Twitter. I just don't post to it because it's not something I fully understood, and that's why I don't do it. And I still don't understand it. But I think there was that level, and Tina helped branch our YouTube, and now that's something that I'm kind of shifting and taking over a little bit. I think there's such an importance of social media because it is your way to interact with everyone, always, at any time. And I can respond to a comment or post something that creates a conversation that can make people fans, and at least just those small moments can be really good. When people talk about, oh, I watched your video of this, oh, I watched your, and I mean, Dynamic helped a lot with this of like, oh, I watched your sidearm video, and helped me so much, and a lot of really good things also came from doing stuff with Eagle and being on his vlogs back in the day, and that was a really big point that helped me gain relevance and gain a fan following. So social media is something that I would highly encourage everybody to stay active and do. It can be your own personal spin on how you view the sport and everything, but also you can be a salesman, which I try to do a little bit of both, of showing people why I'm so excited about the disc that I'm throwing. One, to be a good sponsored player and show that off, but it's something I truly believe in, because I legitimately am not going to throw a disc that I don't like. Like I'm in that point where it's like, if I don't like it, I'm not going to throw it. Full stop. But if I really like it, I want to talk about it. And if I really like it enough, even if it's a disc that I might not be able to put my name on, I still want to give it hype, because people out there are going to be excited, because I'm not the only person who throws the RPM Kotare. So all the RPM fans are out there stoked that somebody else is throwing the same disc they are. And I get to hype that up. And speaking of, I mean, I have IPM Kotare with my name on it now. It's glow. It's sick. Check them out. But that's
Shout
not.
out.
Yeah, shout out. But that's not like the whole point. Is that you find yourself in these places of being able to have more interactions with so many more people and so many more companies, and it's it's branched into, I've developed a really good relationship with Tyler Brickley of DGA, which means that that door could be a possibility of us collaborating on something. And I think that's so important in the sport of disc golf, especially as an open bag player. I have an opportunity to work with every company in the sport if they want to work with me, and that's a really, really cool concept. And by having that diverse social media presence of, sometimes it's hype posts, sometimes it's really funny of me doing TV face stuff, or being in the water for the 1,000th time, you name it. There's so many ways to interact with people. So I expect to see some really cool things coming from the YouTube channel. More Is That Goods, planning and I'll just say it here, I'm planning a best shot triples at every single event, similar to what Brody and Ezra are doing, hence the conversation about those two earlier, of how I want to follow that, of putting on something that people can see. James Proctor and I will be traveling together, so we're going to do best shot triples where we bring a third player on for each video, and our goal is to try and shoot 18 down at a Pro Tour course as a triples team.
Good luck.
Yeah. Like, I have a feeling it's going to happen. Like, most of the videos is we're going to go out and shoot triples, and like Paul or Gannon or some person is just going to be like, yeah, we beat you triples on the same course that you guys tried. And, it's just going to be like, yeah, we get it. You're good. Shut up. So it's gonna be fun, but expect to see a lot coming from the channel, and I'm gonna be collaborating with Infinite, ThoughtSpace, Clash, you name it, a ton with other stuff as well. So and maybe an Ace Run Pro, because those guys are awesome.
Ooh. Yes, they are awesome. Shout out to Felix and Conrad.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that all of that sounds really awesome. And a lot of that is possible, like due to the brand that you've built for yourself.
Yep.
When did you really start thinking about your brand and building your brand on your social media channels?
I had to just play into who I am as a person, and I think people tend to think of me as that I don't take anything seriously. I'm super jokey, but you know me. You've seen me on the course. I am sometimes too serious, but it's just so important, and I think I recognize that my tail end with Discmania, and Putter Pants was be somewhat relevant as a name and things like that, was not very relevant, but gaining traction, and Eric Oakley was on the rise as I was in videos and things like that. So it's just helping me grow. And then I think my time with Dynamic, it went even farther, because I had to, I quickly became so synonymous with the Felon and was able to allow that to be branded. Like, I'm still tagged in Felon, aces and things like that. Even if it's not my Felon, I'm still tagged in Felon stuff all the time. I haven't bagged a Felon for a year. So
I still throw your Felons.
Yes. You saw that white one?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
The white one with the possibly gold stamp. I'm going to call it gold.
The stamp's gone. It doesn't matter. It knew it needed to go because it's gold, so it's fine. It wore itself off because it knew it wasn't good enough. Sorry. I think that was around that time, and to still have, to still be tagged in some stuff that Dynamic Disc is also tagged in. It's like I legitimately made an impact on a community by talking about a disc so much, and I'm not just blowing hot air. Like, I'm hyping up a disc for a reason, because the discs are good. I've seen it a lot with the stuff that I've been able to hype over this past year. Is the Dynasty came out and is this mainstay as a control driver in the Infinite lineup, and people are super excited about it because it is a very throwable disc, and it was like the first signature disc that I had that was actually good for everyone. Putters are so, like, you can have your name on putters, and that's just one thing, because somebody would have picked up one of the Wardens that had my name on it, and they'd be like, oh, no bead, cool, put it on the shelf. But a 9-speed control driver is good for beginners, it's good for advanced players, it's good for pros. So that was like the first disc that I had that was for everyone. So that was really cool to see that type of takeoff, and I hope to continue to promote discs like that and have a good array of options that I can keep hyping up and really get the people excited about.
No, that is awesome. What is, to finish off kind of this social media section, like, what is one tip you have for newer disc golfers looking to build or start a social media or a brand for themselves? Just
do it. Keep posting.
Be Nike.
Be Nike. Just do it. Like, yeah, do it. Be Shia LaBeouf too. Like, it's like that whole concept, man, is like, you have to just go out and promote. A company will look at a player who's going out of their way to talk about stuff and promote and just do it because of the sheer love of disc golf. That will give you a better chance of getting to that next step, because they see that you're doing it because you love the sport. Don't do it because you want to be sponsored. Don't do it because it's not natural to you. If it's not natural to you, find something that is natural to you that you can promote. If it ends up being that disc review style, do that. If it ends up being just you throwing cool shots on the course like Silas Schultz with sick effects and making things look cool, do that. Find a way to do what is easy for you, and you will do well. It should never be with the intention to be sponsored, because you have that thought of being sponsored is going to make me a better player. No. Be a good player first, so that when you do get sponsored, it amplifies all that you're doing. already. You have the foundation set in stone first. So if you're looking to promote and do things, let it come naturally and post often and set a reminder on your phone to, like, I have a post that comes up. This is Instagram, and I don't do it every day, but at least I have a reminder that if I have the moment where I can make a picture, hype up a disc, put up a video, story, you name it, I can. And it goes a long way of, you have to do the work and let the rest follow. It's not going to happen the moment you get sponsored or the moment something else happens. Like, you have to make that happen.
This is very true. That is great advice.
Yeah.
And now we started bleeding into this section a little bit in the last one, but your disc golf sponsorship started out with Discmania.
Mm-hmm.
Then it went to Dynamic Disc, where we actually met, or we met just prior to that, really.
Yep.
And then now you're open bag with Infinite, Thaw Space Athletics. I have to read it because you have so many things.
Yep.
Clash Disc, Whale Sacks, Disc Golf Strong, Birdie Fuel are all the ones you have listed on your Instagram, at least. And feel free if I missed any.
Yep.
But what has the change been like going from a traditional manufacturer sponsorship to the type of open bag sponsorship that you have now?
Well, let's shout out the one sponsor that's not on there, Mad Disc Dies. I ran out of space, so want to always hype them up. They're awesome. They're my die sponsor. I actually don't throw many die discs, but they're Alan Ryder, who's a friend of ours through the Discord and through the pod of everything that we're doing on the gaming side of things. He is just a genuinely great human being, and he wanted to support Tina and I, so we said absolutely. So it was kind of like, we're friends. Oh, we want to work together? Cool, let's do that too. So it just kind of worked out great. As for your question about the differences and the transition and everything, it was exciting at first. I was never really throwing destroyers before, and now being able to throw destroyers and the Emperor, they have done something special with this mold, with the destroyer mold, and Emperors are, I think I would consider a destroyer variant. It is pretty wild how good they are, how far some of them can fly, how consistent some of them can fly, even though it is a pretty prone to being called a inconsistent mold, since there's destroyers that fly super overstable and destroyers that look the same that fly super understable. But when you find the right ones, it is super special. So that was a really exciting factor. And then also I was just able to try everything, every manufacturer, all these stuff. And, I got a huge box of Lone Star. I got a huge box of RPM discs and you name it. I got all these discs from so many manufacturers to just try out and see what I liked. And, I fell in love with the Berg, which is one of the weirdest molds on the market, like, without a doubt. But it is incredible. And then, I think that there's been a really cool aspect of, I no longer have to try and make discs work that are in the lineup, because I can literally throw the best disc for me in a specific slot, no matter what company that's from. And I think a big part of the openness that I have with Infinite, Thought Space, and Clash has been along the lines of, they're not saying you need to have the majority of your bag be X or be ours. They're like, throw as many as you want, but at least throw one or two, please. But they're not asking for, like, we want to be 50, 60, 70, 80% of your bag. They're understanding, and with what that does is that incentivizes me to try more of their molds anyways, because I'm trying to find ones. And in doing so, like, let's use Clash as an example. In doing so, I was like, well, Barry's in, because I was working with the Claymore and ended up being like, wow, the Barry's really good. And it was just, and the whole story of me losing my Claymore in Europe and then having the Barry in my backup stuff. And I was like, yep, this is it. And I still have Claymores that I could throw, but here we are. The next part was like, well, I started throwing the Popcorn. And the Popcorn is an incredible throwing putter. And it's really, really good. It's like an Envy and a Fierce had a baby. And it's like, I was loving the Envy. So it was like this really awesome kind of thing that I was able to do. And then the Pepper, was another one that I just started to realize its versatility and how good it was for me in my types of shots. So the berry bled into the other two discs, and now I have the spice in there. So I'm like, there's 4 clash molds right away, and they have a bunch of incredible discs on the way too. Same thing happened with Thought Space. All started with the Pathfinder, and then branched into Votems and Mantras and Constructs, and so many other discs that they are going to be releasing. Like the Temple is in and out of my bag, and Infinite was easy. I mean, they were the first company I was already working with, so I had a bunch of their stuff in those like solidified spots of Emperors for Distance, Exodus for my T-Bird slot, Alpacas for putting, because it's it is the P2 mold, and I'm able to, and that was like my favorite putter that I've ever used, and now the Alpaca is just such a mainstay, and then we was able to complement with the Dynasty, so it's awesome. It's really 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 cool. I don't think it's a bad thing to be a single sponsored player, to have that manufacturer that sponsors you. I think it's a very good thing. I think the open bag concept could be something that is isn't for everyone, but is a very amazing opportunity for growth of personal brand and things like that. So I'm very thankful for it. So.
No, that's super cool, and I've been happy like watching you, because you clearly thrive in that environment.
Yeah.
Has there been anything that was like unexpectedly difficult about going from a single I can talk, I swear, single manufacturer sponsor over to an open bag sponsor?
Yeah. I mean, I ended up with some discs that were overlapped for a little bit, and that took a little bit of just shifting molds and different things like that. Well, let's put it to the MVP reactor was in my bag for the majority of last season. But then I started to recognize that I was throwing the reactor expecting it to be more stable, but it was actually kind of close to like a brand new Pathfinder after it gets a little bit of season. And I started running into an issue of these are just a little too close. And that's why I am now working with the DGA Quake as an option, and I've been working with that for the tail end of last season and into this off season. As the Quake and the Pathfinder there's a bigger gap, but if I beat the crap out of a Quake, it'll be closer to like that brand new reactor was more often and might stay there longer. So that helps me. There are 2 different shots that those discs handle now, rather than I could throw a Pathfinder or a reactor. Now it's like it's either a Quake or it's either a Pathfinder, and that's a really nice concept to start to figure out what I need for my game. And that's been I think the one hard part is that you will often find discs overlapping, but you won't know it until it's too late, because you're on the course and you throw this disc and you're like, should have thrown that one. Where when I was with DD, it was like, it's this disc and that, and like that's what you have, because there's not really another mold, or you're probably not comfortable with another mold that could do it because of the discs that have been in your bag for so long. So that was something that I had to kind of feel out and figure out. But I feel like as I'm getting into this off season, things are just I know what slots I need to have covered, especially since we've played the courses so many times. And there will be new courses that I'll have to learn, and I'll probably have backups of discs that I wasn't sure if I'm going to need or not. So yeah, I think that's the only part, is that overlap. It can bite you, but that happens with every company too.
I could see that being, I feel like the, like, what do they call it? The paradox of choice.
Yeah.
Or like just having everything at your fingertips inherently makes it harder to select the tool you need to use.
Totally.
Like,
you have to slim it down. Like, you have to just be like, I know I could throw a Synapse or something like that, but I'm just too comfortable with the Emperor. And it's like, that was I would love to throw the Synapse. I think it's an incredible mold as a destroyer like disc from Thought Space, but the Emperor was like, I just jived with it so perfectly. It was perfect for my form, and I wasn't having to do anything else. So I was like, move those. I don't need them. I'm just going to throw the Emperors and complement it with the Destroyer. So it's like, you have to be able to be disciplined with yourself to say no. As much as you can fit more discs in your bag, you don't need more discs in your bag, type of thing. So
I always need more discs. You know how heavy my bag
I
is.
know, dude. Just busting out the seams and everything. I respect it. Like, now that I was able to throw everything, I was like, there were so many practice rounds where I had like 4 discs in this pocket, 4 discs in this pocket, wall to wall, stuffing extra putters in the top. Like, I was like, it was like, I don't know, it's like a piece of popcorn that just exploded from the kernel, just like.
That's just my everyday casual bag.
Yep. I mean, I'm also rucking while I'm playing my practice rounds because I need the extra weight. So.
Multitasking, baby. Super. I love it. So with open bag sponsorships, do you see that as kind of being more of the future of disc golf? Like, I didn't actually write this down, but the way I kind of wanted this question to go is like, if we have some bigger non-manufacturer brands come in, they're going to be some sort of apparel or some sort of other sponsors. Yeah. And then do we see these manufacturers shifting as more of like sponsoring certain portions of bags, or how do you see the future of that go?
I would like to be hopeful that could be an option, but I think I don't think the main manufacturers are ready to let that go. And I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. I just genuinely think that things have been a certain way for so long that it's going to be difficult for them to let go. If the financial side of things continue in the trend that it's going and people want to have the sponsors that they do, I think open bag could help that, because I could see a player saying, my putters are sponsored by Discraft, my drivers are sponsored by Innova, and now those sponsors can get a player for a fifth of the price and support them and get their promotion and not have to shell out millions of dollars or even like 6 figures for certain players. So that could be something. I remain hopeful that it could be, but I don't see it happening because of just how long it's been with this single manufacturer stuff. I still think that I could see a few companies moving to giving options for opening up their bags, and less limiting, because if you want your players to do well, and if you're not giving them all the tools to do well, like you're obviously trying to make a lineup that is enough for every player, but some people's molds are better than others. That's just in specific slots. Everybody has, I think, a standout disc in their lineup, and then the other stuff is all pretty close. But if let's look at the zone as a prime example. It's like, if you have the ability to throw a zone, for most people, it's like, why would you throw a Harp or a Toro or a Mint or a Bobcat, or the list goes on. It's kind of like, it's kind of crazy to think about that, as one company made a disc that was so good, and then everything after that is kind of close, but not quite. So you, as a player who's under that umbrella that doesn't get to throw a zone, can make it work because it's close. But there are just subtle differences that that a zone can, that other discs just can't handle what the zone does. And there is merit to saying that the zone isn't the best disc for everyone. Right? Like, it really isn't, because there are plenty of discs that you could see that just work for your arm speed or your technique or whatever, and it's from this random company. Keep throwing it. You don't have to you don't have to try and force a zone into your bag if you don't have to. So I think that that's also something that is not thought about enough, is that, different discs just work for different people's hands or speed or you name it.
Yeah, and it's honestly crazy how some discs with basically the exact same measurements can fly so differently from each other.
Yeah, we can try, but it's but there's whatever's happening. The science that is way above my pay grade is too hard to understand, and those who do understand it, I applaud you. And I mean, I'm just out there and said, this feels good. Let's find out if it flies good. That's all I can do, and I'll do the more practical approach.
Yeah, 100%. So for this little segment here, I had to go to your Instagram. I was double checking your sponsorships. Mm-hmm. I noticed you don't currently have a bag sponsor, at least listed. Is that an upcoming announcement that's happening soon, or what's going on with that?
Yeah, partial announcement is going to be coming out. I'm working with a more lesser known bag company that is looking to get into the American market. It's a European company that I'm really excited to work with. I was able to carry a friend of mine's bag that is this company, and I reached out to him, and I know the owner, and he's an awesome dude. And so when that comes out, it's going to be great. I'm going to have a full in-depth bag review. You're going to see it posted plenty on my socials. I'm really looking forward to that. But I had an amazing opportunity to represent Upper Park all last season, and they did great things, and they are doing great things. It was kind of wild because their team is so big. It's a lot of players, and to me, it's a fantastic thing to see that they are able to support so many people in the sport. But it got to the point where I felt a little bit just kind of, I'm just one of many there, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it was tough. You kind of just things get lost a little bit more, but I'm incredibly thankful for Martin and his whole team at Upper Park and the opportunities that they presented me, because I really did enjoy the bag. I really enjoy the concepts of what they're trying to preach as a company. So if you're in the market for a solid bag that you can get a little kickback to, Plenty of Pros, go check out their team page. You can easily find a code that'll support people, and they have other different organizations that you can also support with that. So Upper Park offers a lot of great things. But as I grow and I need to understand the things that I need as my career changes, sometimes that means stepping away from companies that you're even, decently happy with. So that's basically what the situation is. I wish them nothing but the best. And, I was happy to be able to have a solid year representing their company. So, but on to the next. And I think people are going to like what they see from the bag that I'm going to be using, and hopefully it can grow and at least be, another great option in the bag market, which is a very competitive market at the moment. But so we'll see. I'm excited, and I think everybody should be looking to support everybody who's doing it. So bags are going to be crazy.
Very cool. All right. So before we get into the main 2 questions I asked to every player who comes on this podcast, I've got 5 fan questions for you.
Sweet.
Really, it's only 4 because one of them's ridiculous. but nonetheless, 5 of them.
Sweet.
So Alex would like to know, what are your top 3 most difficult courses on tour?
Northwood Black is it comes to mind. Let me see. What is another really difficult one?
I told myself I wouldn't mention this, but dare I speak Iron Hill?
I mean, I was going to say that, but it's not on tour anymore, so thank God.
I know,
I love the people, but that's not to me, Iron Hill isn't that hard, but it's just it's a course that has my number. My throw style, the shot shapes that I like to throw just don't work on that course. It's a square peg, round hole. It's just is never going to work. So that's honorable mention for sure. I would put, man, there's so many amazing courses that we got to play.
It's funny how Northwood's Black is just immediate. All right, Northwood's Black. It's here.
It's always there. I'd put Maple Hill on a windy day. And if you put a little bit of breeze at Maple Hill, it's this course just got 5 strokes harder, because your mistakes aren't just oh, I'm in the rough. No, my mistakes are I'm OB and also in an awkward position. So I think I would always have Maple Hill in that conversation as places that play really hard.
Also, which direction is the wind even coming from right now?
Dude, how often have you been at Maple Hill where you practice in one wind and then it's a totally different wind for the tournament? And you're I have no idea what disc to throw because it's now a crosswind or it's a tailwind or whatever the case may be.
Or like this last year where you practiced with 0 visibility.
Yeah, right. I hope I find that. Man, I'm trying to think. Actually, let me pull up the tour. This will be way easier if I just like
Oh,
look at
there you
it.
go.
This will be
Well, we've got two.
yeah. We got
I'm
two.
trying to think of my third.
Um,
Hmm.
I mean, oh yeah, Idlewild.
Oh, yep. That's a good one. It's a
Idlewild.
good one.
Idlewild is a a course that I always like walk in. I'm like, I know how to play this. I know how to do this. It's gonna be fine. And then it it's just a course that you can't like you. I don't ever feel like you can be fully prepared for because it's so much of how you're throwing in the moments of how easy it's going to be. Because if you're off by a little bit, it sucks. Like
Yeah.
it's like when if you're off by a lot, it's like it's also bad. But it's like those
Worse.
but like the difference between being off by a little bit and off by a lot, like they feel close to the same at least, but definitely off by a lot is usually generally a lot worse. But like you're still not getting your birdies if you're off by a little bit, and
Yep.
so like you can feel great and be hitting lines, but you can just be a little bit off, and you're shooting 1 under par, and that's it, and that's all you're going to get to. Like, but you were like very close to shooting 8 under par, and so I'd put that in that realm of it's a course that definitely it's just you got to be ready. You got to be ready to go to battle when you're in Kentucky out there. You just got to be ready to go, buckle down, and don't let the course win. Like that's all you can do, and that's why we see the players who have won there. It's been different because even some of the best players can go out there and they're not going to have their. It's very difficult to have their best weekend.
Yep. And there's just so many must hit gaps
Yep.
on that course if you're going to win.
Yep.
And it's just like it's so hard to hit them every time.
So true. So true.
All right. The next question, Jacob asked, and I think you actually. Oh, actually, I did not answer this question. There was one we got to.
Sweet.
Now that you are open bag, do you ever see yourself going back to a single manufacturer? I'm really struggling with that phrase today.
It's a tough one. It's not something you say often either, so it's not like a common phrase. I could. I personally, I feel. I mean, I don't ever want to rule that stuff out, but the way I feel about where I'm at in the companies I'm representing right now, I see myself staying with for the remainder of my career. I would like to. It depends on if they want the same things, which at the current status of things, I'm signing multiple year deals with most of the companies I'm with. And that makes me feel great that we're going to be able to now, we had a trial year. Things went good. Cool. Let's have a couple more years and see what we can grow into and how we can mold together, because the people I get to work with, whether that's Todd Dillon and Kessler at Infinite, whether that's Aaron at ThoughtSpace and his crew, Paul and everybody over there, and Randy and Bobby at Clash, it's just been I feel like they are talking to me and communicating with me as I'm helping in the direction of the company and everything. So that gives me a lot of positive feeling on it, and it definitely makes me excited to want to give them and invest in them as much as they're investing in me. So, I would never rule it out, because you never know what is going to swing and happen in your life. But if I'm able to stay in control, I'll have these 3 companies on my shirts, on my van, and in my bag for the remainder of my career, and we just do amazing things together, and we build teams and media presences and discs and everything that the people love. And that's all I can hope for, and at least what I'm aiming for.
That is super awesome to hear.
Yeah.
So GT, we don't know many people named GT.
I love
GT. Who that is.
He's awesome. What a dude. And I love seeing how far he's come. He is
GT's awesome.
He's a grinder. He's a fantastic player, and I think if I would love to see him talk about his grind a little bit more, because I think more people can relate to him having a life but wanting to do more in disc golf, and then how he kind of helped make that happen. So yeah. he's sacrificed a lot to be where he's at. So I'm excited about this conversation, this question.
GT is somebody who I definitely want to have on the podcast too. So by the way, if you're watching out there, GT, you're on my list.
Let's go.
I'm coming for you at some point soon. Thank God I'm not Liam Neeson. That'd be a worse list to be on.
I have a specific set of skills. And it's all podcast related.
So GT asked, he said he asked you this
a long time ago,
years ago, and wanted to know, so how do you deal with distractions while playing?
I don't deal with them because I'm not that great at them. But to answer the question honestly, it's finding ways to stay in the zone and having ways to help reset your brain, because there are multiple types of distractions that you're going to have to deal with on the course. A couple of which that I'm okay with. Nature distractions, trees moving, branches falling, birds chirping, that kind of stuff. Those are fine. Disc golf distractions, baskets being hit, chains hit, crowds cheering, even to an extent of a player having a conversation on a different hole. Those are things that I think are a part of our sport, and we're not going to be able to do anything about that. The spectator distractions can be very frustrating because that kind of bleeds into being a disc golf distraction, but spectators can do better by understanding that, hey, I'm walking through a fairway and I'm now about to walk in the line of sight of somebody putting or throwing or something like that, where often I've seen players trying to go find other players, or spectators trying to go find other players and being completely oblivious that they're walking in the way of other people playing the game. It's like, I know you want to go see that person, but I'm also here doing the same thing that they're doing. So give me the same respect that you're going to give them when you get to see them play by staying still. So that's one part of the distraction. And then a prime example was at the Memorial is like the non-spectator distractions, cars, people on bikes, dogs, you name it, old people just wandering around. Those are distractions that are so impossible to deal with. And I am so happy we're moving farther away from courses that even have that as an option, so we don't have to deal with those types of distractions, because that isn't professional. And to be honest, GT wears headphones. I've seen he often does, so he gets to block out some of those. Which, this isn't like a dig at GT or Patrick Brown or those who prefer to wear headphones. I think that those are along with rangefinders, I think are two things we could see be taken away from the Elite Series and majors and Pro Tour events in the future. Of those are something we don't need because they can be overly helpful, and rangefinders should be a practice tool, not a tournament tool, in my opinion. Yeah. That's what your practice and note taking should be about on that kind of stuff.
I'm of the same opinion on those two things. I just also recognize, like,
it's a rule. You can use it.
Exactly. As far as if things are legal, I will never judge a person for doing it.
I agree, and that's I won't be like, oh, they're using a rangefinder. Like I'm not a snob in that regard. It's just like, make sure you stay inside your 30 seconds, and we're good. And I'll ask you when you rangefind it, like, how far? Because I'm going to use that to like maybe adjust for my shot. But to the distraction part is set up ways for you to have resets. So build a routine that allows you to reset. Now I've had an issue where a spectator was walking and crunching on some rocks, like that was on the path that they were on, and I'm about to throw a putt. I have had this issue where if I turn and say, hey man, can you stand still? And then I come back and do my routine, I am now actually creating a rules infraction because I am likely taking more than my allotted 30 seconds. So that's where I start to have an issue, because as a person who's trying to abide by the rules, by me telling that person to stop, I have now put the rest of my card and myself in a weird spot because I can get called for this time infraction. Now that's what's in my head. Now I'm like, I need to hurry up. And now I'm not able to focus completely on the shot at hand. So that's another like part of this whole distraction thing of like having these good mental resets, but also trying to function within the time allotted is getting really difficult. And I think that that's where most distractions cause me to have issues, and I tend to struggle on them. So things that I've been working on is sticking to my routines. especially when putting and different things of getting myself set, being ready, and then being able to also, something happens, I can reset. All right, reset, go through it, and throw. If it needs to be quicker, I still can do that, which I've done that, playing casual rounds with the homies where my buddy will make a fart noise when I'm trying to throw a putt, which is amazing. And it makes me laugh every time. But but also it's really distracting. But if I could putt through that, I'm going to be able to handle any distraction in a tournament course because farting is hilarious. So even if it's just from your mouth noises, so it's good. So yeah, I think just get to your routines and be able to reset, because that's the only way you're going to be able to move past distractions. And or if you can find a way to be in a Zen state zone like place always, you don't have to worry about distractions because there is nothing, because all you're seeing is the task at hand.
Yeah, and that's just so easy to do.
So
right?
easy. It's the simplest thing ever, right? I do that all the time.
So Nick asks, well, I changed his question a little bit. I
Cool.
wanted to rephrase it. Still from Nick, though.
So, Nick?
There is a ton of young talent coming onto the tour, and they seem to be getting better and better every year. As one of the veterans out there, how do you plan on keeping up with them?
By understanding my game completely, wholeheartedly, understanding every aspect of my distances, my strengths, my weaknesses, and understanding what I should be doing to handle courses, and not trying to do anything that is outside my capabilities and abilities. I had a round at Worlds this year. I was with Cole Riddell and Jake Mon and Silas Schultz, 17, 17, 18. I'm 34. I was ancient on that card. I felt like Father Time. And
Had a few of those cards this year.
Yeah, and but that was like one of those things, and I kept up, and I was actually outside of the final hole, I was winning the card. So it was, for me, I have to keep understanding more about my game, and just making and being better prepared both on and off the course, and giving myself the best opportunity each weekend.
Perfect. The last fan question is from my buddy Brian Bittner.
Okay.
And he asked a very silly question, but I like it because it made me laugh a lot because of who it made me think of. He said, "Who do you think you are?" So Eric, who do you think you are?
I am Eric Oakley. That's who I am, and I am a professional sports player who is as a bigger fan than most people will recognize of the sport of disc golf. I love this game. I love seeing my card mates and other people succeed. I love seeing really cool stuff. The constant phrase of "is that good" is something that is just me passing along the hype and realness of, hey, disc golf is this amazing thing for all of us. And "is that good" is a common phrase that comes up as this, like, it's always used when something's obviously good. That's what it's about. And I think that is my way of being like, yeah, nice. That's awesome. So yeah, that's who I am. And I'm a husband. I'm a friend, and I'm a son. I'm a lot of things that make me who I am. And I'm hoping that I continue to find more things about myself in the many years, or hopefully many years, I have left. So it's gonna be fun. Great question. That I turned philosophical, so it's good.
Great answer to that question.
Yeah.
And for you and for those of you at home who want to know why I laughed at that so hard, there is a famous professional bowler named Pete Weber who tends to get fiery every now and then.
Yes.
And he said, "Who do you think you are?" I am.
That was one of the best clips ever. It's so good.
It's just very quotable. So if you want to look that up, type in Pete Weber, "Who do you think you are?" and you'll understand.
It's fantastic. It's a great clip.
So the main two questions we ask on this show are, what is an actionable piece of advice you would give to a beginner player looking to get better? And what is that same piece of advice, essentially, but geared towards a aspiring pro player? So what sort of advice would you give to a beginner looking to get better?
Play, throw a lot, and diversify the courses you play. Put in equal amounts of time on the course to equal amounts of time in the field and on the green, practicing putting. That's going to be those beginners. That's how you're going to get better. Don't overanalyze your form. Obviously, there are points that you need to fix in your form, and if you have glaring flaws that are plateauing you, you can. That's when it's time to work on a little bit of form adjustments. But the main focus should be on the consistency of throwing discs and getting better in that regard. So I would highly encourage repetition as those beginner players. As for aspiring pros, be ready to hustle. Do all the things that I just said, but be ready to hustle and grow yourself, and do so without the help of a sponsor, without the ambition of being sponsored, by doing it for the love of the game, like we mentioned earlier, and allowing yourself to have a foundation built, so when money does come in, it's easy to build that house and make that happen, and be a good professional, not only for that company but for the sport of disc golf. And if you're trying to be a good aspiring professional, one thing I will encourage, and this is some things that I've even forgotten in my career, is how impressionable you can be on others, whether that's people you're playing with and people who are watching you, whether that's two people who happen to be passing by that aren't in disc golf. You can make an impression on them as a person and as a human being in that moment. And then, to your card mates, it's always important to not be the person that impacts the card, which is, again, something that I have struggled in the past, but I think I am turning the corner and going in a much positive direction. I like to hype people up, and I was dealing with some stuff a few years back, which you know all about, and were a part of that process and heard some of the more details. You understood, and I appreciated you being supportive, no matter how much of a schmuck I might have been being. It was always nice having a friend like yourself that could at least see a step past that I was battling some demons. But we came out on top, so we're in a much better place. So think about that as you continue to grow as a player, and how incredibly important it is of be able to end the day and end any tournament or anything saying, you're like, you know what, I did my best. I had moments where I fought adversity and I came out on top, because that mindset will carry you into being incredibly successful both on and off the course. So that's what I would say to any aspiring pro, because you're going to have to battle some crazy things when it comes your way. So just being okay and trusting in yourself will carry a long way.
Yeah, that is fantastic advice. So make sure to take that out there for sure. So Eric, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. We've gone for a while, an hour, 46 minutes and 49 seconds now.
Crushing.
So thank you for your time. Before we head out of here, feel free to plug everything you've got going on, man. What do you got going on out there?
Check all the sponsors that are supporting me: Infinite Disc, Thought Space, Clash, Whale Sex, Birdie Fuel, Disc Golf Strong, Mad Disc Dies. Also look to support anybody in your area who's making disc golf better. That's your local shops, any clubs or anything. Go and anybody who's sponsoring events, whether that's restaurants or whomever. Just go and take care of those businesses to let them know how amazing disc golf is for you and your appreciation for what they're doing for the sport. The next step of that is, check me out on social medias, the Eric Oakley, Whale Pants on YouTube. Check out our Patreon, Eric Oakley on Twitch. We actually, on the 6th, have a 24-hour charity stream for Feeding America, which will be awesome. That it's going to be just super fun. So we're looking to give back and looking to do a lot of great things in the future. So and when you have the opportunity, if you find somebody you're really excited about in disc golf, support them. I think I would love to see a lot more of the people that I know who are grinding and working hard just receive that little extra support, whether that's if you buy in their discs through places, just to give them a couple little bucks for royalties. But those things go a long way, because there are a lot of great people in our sport that deserve it. And I hope that there's many more on the way, and many more that are going to pave the sport to be amazing. So yeah, support it.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for joining me. Thank you to all of you guys for tuning in. Remember, do all the things. Like, subscribe, comment, review. Do all the things, guys. It really helps us out.
Spread the love.
Share it. I always forget that too. So thank you so much for being on. Thank you to you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next week.